What's going on, everybody? We're back at another video again. And I bet you can't guess what we're doing today. That's right, we're doing another 1,000-word story. We got this one right here. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I really like this one. I think it's a kind of spooky, kind of mysterious. It's big fun. It's good. It's really good. I think anyway. Any words to say before we get started? No? Cool. Let's do it. The title of this story is The woods are a mysterious place. Somewhere that berries live. Somewhere that monsters live. Somewhere that anything can live. I never knew the magic of the forest until we moved into our new house when I was 8 years old. It was a nice little cottage made of wood just outside of the forever forest. It took me 2 months to first step in there. My mom always told me not to go in there, and for a long time I did as she said, but my curiosity got the better of me. I started out small, just a few steps in, but the more used to it I got, the further in I ventured. One day, I went too far. I had gotten just a few steps in, and I noticed that a log that hadn't been there before was there, and I went to investigate. I knew the log had not been there before because I would have seen it, and inspecting only confirmed what I feared. The log had been moved there very suddenly and very quickly by something very big. The ground that it lay on was fresh and newly compact. It had been dragged, and there was a trail to prove it. I looked inside the hollow log, but there was only a few leaves and bugs. I attempted to pick up the side of the log just to gauge how heavy it was, and I couldn't move it an inch. I looked around for anything that could have done something like this, but found nothing. The trail that the log had left went on for so long that I couldn't see the end of it. I took my first few steps down the path and heard a wailing screech that riddled me to my core. In that moment, I thought about just going home. I wasn't supposed to be out here after all, but I couldn't stop the feeling that I was supposed to be out here, to find something. Even though I was terrified at the screech, I decided to move on. I started walking down the beaten path the log had created and started to notice something peculiar about the forest. It smelled different. It smelled sweet. Unlike anything I had experienced before. After about 10 minutes of walking, I came across a clearing. It was the strangest clearing I had ever seen in my life. In the middle of this big, dense, mystical forest was a patch about 30 feet in diameter of completely dead grass, with one single daisy sprouting right in the middle. How can this happen? What can do this, and how? I started to move through the clearing and spotted a large figure on the other side of it. It appeared seemingly out of nowhere. I stopped in my tracks, staring at the figure. It was large and intimidating. I went to take another step and accidentally stepped on a fallen branch. There was a crack that in most situations would be nearly silent, but in the deadening forest it echoed like a bomb. The figure whipped around suddenly, and in its dark figure I could only make out 2 purple eyes. Then, in an instant, it flashed away. It didn't run. It didn't jump. It was just gone. At that unsettling appearance, I decided it was time to go home. I briefly started walking back down the trail, looking back at the clearing to see if anything was following me. When I had decided that I was safe, I slowed to a walk. I continued down the path until I could see the log and instantly stopped in my tracks when I did. The large shaded figure was standing right next to it, staring back at me. I could see the figure much better now, and that ended up being a bad thing. It had no body, not that I could see anyway. It was just a dark shadow with 2 luminescent purple eyes. The pitch blackness of its form was hauntingly disturbing because light shone through the trees and made the whole area seem mostly lit. This thing, though, was like staring at the black of night. I stopped in my tracks and froze. I couldn't move, even though I wanted to. I was so scared of this otherworldly thing that I couldn't even defend myself. The creature started moving towards me at a slow pace. It did not take steps. More so, it glided across the ground without ever touching it. The closer it got, the more terrified I felt. I was helpless at this moment. My mother had told me not to go near the woods, and I hadn't listened to her. This, therefore, was to be my fate. The creature got near to me, about 10 feet away, and the air began to get cold. The closer it got, the colder it got, and by the time it was standing in front of me, it felt as if it were negative 20 degrees on this mid-July afternoon. The creature breathed deeply, and from its dark figure formed an arm that reached out at me. The arm slowly formed itself into a hand-like shape, but it wasn't a hand. It took one finger and placed it directly between my eyebrows, and everything went black. I eventually came back and immediately felt the ground under me. My eyes blinked open, and I saw that I was just inside the woods, directly behind my house. I looked around to see if the creature was anywhere, but found nothing. The creature was gone. All that was 10 years ago, and I haven't gone back to the forest since. I'm leaving for college tomorrow, and wanted to take one last look at it. As I'm standing in my backyard looking at the great abyss that is these woods, I see two purple eyes slowly approach the edge, but stop just short. We stare at each other for a moment, neither breaking eye contact. Then the eyes disappeared just as they did that day, forever gone in the forever forest. That's it. That's what I have for you. Thanks for sticking around this long. Yeah, it was pretty fun. Please consider subscribing if you are on to the second one at least, and you haven't yet. That would be appreciated. But yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and leave. Thanks, everybody. Catch you next time.